Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. There's not much in my past worth mentioning. An average man with average desires, a loving wife, a good job, children. My beautiful wife Helen had similar interests. At least that's what I thought. My story is about how I found out that my wife and I don't have as many common interests as I thought. It started one dark and stormy night. No, it's not like that. It's just how I've always wanted to start a story. It started one evening when I came home from work. My wife Helen was sitting on the couch in the living room watching TV. She turned it off when I came in. I sniffed and didn't smell the food. What's the matter? Do you want to go out tonight? Have you asked Kelsey? Kelsey's at your mother's now. I wanted to talk to you without interference. There was a loving note in her voice, and I decided that I was about to get lucky. Helen continued. I know I shouldn't talk about role-playing games, but I just want you to know how much I like it. I want us to regularly move what we do on Wednesdays into our bedroom. What do you say, cowboy? I didn't know what to say, except, what kind of role-playing game? Oh, I know you want to pretend to keep it a secret to increase the excitement, but you spoiled me. I want more than once a week for our special love. I was overcome by a feeling of intense fear. Helen, I don't know anything about role-playing on Wednesdays. Please tell me what you're talking about. Helen started to look shocked too. You know, on Wednesdays at the Marquee Inn and Suites. Doesn't that mean anything to you? I shook my head negatively. Oh my God. You emailed me about 6 weeks ago that you had found a way to spice up our bed life. We need to go to room 301 at the Marquee Hotel. I had to undress, put on a mask lying on the nightstand, and lie naked on the bed. I didn't move even when you came in and tied me to the bed. After you made love to me, you would untie me and leave. I shouldn't have taken off my mask until you left. We had to pretend we were having an affair and keep a secret from each other. You said you couldn't talk about it for a week. I couldn't believe how wonderful it was. We made love in different ways than ever before. I decided that this was due to the special thrill we felt when imagining another lover. Oh, Cal, please tell me it was you. Tears welled up in her eyes. I'm sorry, Helen. I've never been to the Marquee with you or anyone else. Are you saying that I've made love to someone other than my husband 6 times? She ran to the bathroom and threw up. After she cleaned herself up, she returned to the living room, where I was sitting in complete shock. Cal, you have to forgive me. To be honest, I thought it was you. I was so happy. Now I feel like an idiot. Someone tricked me. Damn, that's why he never talked to me in the room. He wanted me to keep thinking it was you. Oh, Cal, please tell me that you forgive me. I do not know what to say. It just seems so weird. How could someone do this to us and why? How could you be with him 6 times and not notice that it wasn't me? I thought it was you. You did things differently, but it was part of the role-playing game. Doing something different, more quirky than before. I think he's just better than you. Well, maybe you need to find out who this guy is, who is much better than me in bed, so that you can become his wife. I was getting angry. Don't treat me like that. I want to find this guy. I want to cut off his balls for raping me. Do you realize that he actually raped me? I calmed down. I'm sorry, Helen. I haven't looked at it from your point of view enough. Let's try to look at it logically if we can. Who would want to do something like this for us? It has to be someone who really hates me, you, or both of us. Or it could be someone who was secretly in love with you and came up with a way to make love without convincing you to cheat on your husband. Helen trembled all over. I get goosebumps at the thought that there might be someone out there who thinks about making love to me every night. You mean except for me, of course. My attempt to cheer up turned into a big disaster. Asshole, you weren't raped. I'm sorry, okay. Where did the letter come from? It's a pity that I don't save emails. The one who sent them, said to delete the messages. They were emailed from your office. So it must be someone who has access to my computer. I usually leave it on when I leave the table for only a short time. The trouble is, it gives us dozens of opportunities. Does he keep emailing you? Yes. He usually confirms our meeting before each time, hinting at what I can expect. He said he wanted the anticipation to make my juices flow in advance. I had to delete this email and not reply. Now I understand why. Really? Do you like? Yes, but remember, I thought I was going to make love to you. Damn it, Cal. In my mind, I didn't enjoy making love to another man. I enjoyed making love with you. Did he email about the upcoming meeting on Wednesday? No, not yet. I'll write to him. I don't think you should email him back. He gave me a phone number so I could leave a message if I ever had to cancel it. One day, I had to leave a message on it. Okay, don't do anything yet. Let me know when he writes again. There was no lovemaking at the Turner house that night or the next. I hesitated to dip my wick in where someone else had just been. Helen said she was afraid she would start imagining an affair she had with another guy, which would make her feel like she was cheating on me, thereby spoiling the moment. We both agreed that we needed to get tested for sexually transmitted diseases. On Monday, Helen received an email from a mysterious lover. She showed me the text when I got home from work. He confirmed that this environment was good for him. I told her to call him and leave a message that he could get what he wanted. I wanted to make sure he showed up. On Tuesday afternoon, I went to the marquee and talked to the desk clerk. I asked if he would be on duty the next day. He confirmed it. I asked him what I needed to do to enter the room my wife was coming to tomorrow. He was not surprised, as it was obvious to him that the woman and the man who used the same room every week were not married. He replied, $200. Wednesday came, and we were ready to catch this man. Helen came into the room and did everything as usual. A few minutes later, I saw a man enter the room. It was Richie Hammond, the psycho from our office. He molested every woman in the office, married or not. Of course, he was married and had 2 children. Betraying his family obviously wasn't considered an obstacle for him. He looked at the picture of my wife on my desk and mentioned several times how lucky I was to have such a beautiful wife. I always wanted to spray Lysol after every time he appeared in my office. I went to the desk to get a copy of the room key. He wouldn't let me take it. Boy, I'm afraid of losing my job. The boss attacked all the porters so that they would not let anyone in except the one who was paying. Afternoon delights is a big part of our business. I'm sorry, man. I was beside myself. I was thinking about what might be going on in the room. Helen was supposed to be acting the same as usual, and I would barge in before anything happened. I was furious. If you don't give me the key, I'll kick down the door and call the police. Do you think your boss wants to deal with this? I had a key, but it was a few minutes after I was supposed to enter the room. I grabbed him by the hair and pulled him away. Helen seemed disappointed until I untied her and took off her mask. Then she started crying. I told her to get dressed. Richie sat down in one of the chairs. I approached him with fire in my eyes. He just pointed at the corner. A camera was mounted on a tripod. Cal, you don't want to hurt me. I have video recordings of all the sessions that your wife and I have had. Do you really want me to publish them? I think I can get a pretty decent amount for them from some sites. Of course, I can send them to friends and relatives for free. Or we can just leave it as it is. I take it once a week, and you take it every other day. You bastard. Give me the video, and you'll never see my wife again. Or what? Or I will. I will. You can't think of anything that wouldn't humiliate you or brand your wife a cheater, can you? I'm going to kill you. Richie was already laughing. Will you leave your wife and daughter without a husband and father, without means of livelihood? Yes, of course. Well, I'm a little tired of her now that I've got her ass. That's what I'll do. I will never come into contact with her again. Of course, if she wants to call me, then that's another matter. A big smile appeared on his face. Helen got dressed and we left. She was silent on the way home. She ran into the house, went upstairs and took a long shower. I was waiting downstairs. When she came downstairs, she suggested that we talk after dinner. Now it was time to pick up Kelsey. Dinner was quiet, except for Kelsey's account of the day. She went to bed at 8 o'clock. We went to the kitchen table around 8:30 a.m. to make sure our daughter was asleep. What should we do now? Helen asked. I'm not really sure. If there was some way to get the video, it would solve a lot of our problems. At the moment, I don't see any other way than burglary, but who can we force to do it? If we go to the police, he'll just say that you agreed. He has videos that will show that you liked it. Even if he is arrested, the videos will be made public. We're in trouble. Do you have any ideas? No. I think we've crossed the line. I guess we could try to put it all in the rearview mirror and get on with our lives. Are you all right? No revenge? I'm afraid that everything we do will only worsen the situation. Let's leave it at that. If we never talk about it again, it will recede over time." She left and went to bed. As usual lately, I didn't join her. It's been 2 months now. Helen was pleasant and performed all her usual household and childcare duties. We usually didn't talk about anything in the house except about Kelsey, meetings, or phone messages. Our bed life was self-service. I tried to avoid Richie in the office. Every time he looked at me, he had the grin of a man who had cuckolded me. Just another twist of the knife in my back. God, I wanted to wipe that grin off with my fist. I couldn't stop thinking about how to get back at him, and I have never given up on my goal. In the midst of one of my revenge dreams, I got a call. It was the desk clerk from the marquee. "What do you want?" "Hey kid, don't be mad at me. I have some information that might be useful to you. Are you interested?" "I have no idea. What could possibly be of interest to me now?" "What about your wife and that Richie guy going back to their old tricks?" I tried to speak dispassionately, even though my insides were seething. "I find it hard to believe. She hates him. And why would he go back to the marquee if he was caught there?" "I'm not at the marquee anymore. I'm currently working at the Red Roof on Kingston Road. When I saw them, I asked the receptionist I was replacing about them. He said they have been coming regularly for about a month now, every Wednesday at the same time. If I need proof, can I get it for, say, $500? Fuck you both. You and my wife." I hung up the phone. I wanted to cry, but I was too angry. Richie said he would continue if my wife called him. I remembered her comments about how much he enjoyed making love to him. We had never been without love for so long before, and Helen didn't seem to feel left out. Probably because it didn't happen. The only thing I could do was leave. I took the things that I usually took with me on a 3-day business trip. I headed to the nearest motel, which wasn't the Marquee or the Red Roof, and there was a bar. I checked into the Holiday Inn Express and headed to the bar. I didn't drink much, so I asked the bartender to offer me something. He bought me a cocktail from Long Island. At first it seemed too weak to me, but by the second round my opinion had changed. There was a damn belated rumble. I was on my way to drown in my sorrows when I got a pat on the shoulder. "May I join you, Cal? I need to cry into my beer too." I saw a tall woman with long wavy jet black hair. She was great. I replied, "Excuse me, do I know you?" "Joan, Richie's wife, at least for now. We met at last year's Christmas party." I looked again. How could I forget such a beautiful woman? Did I just say that out loud? Joan laughed. "Thanks. I think you meant it as a compliment. Like you." "Why do you? Are you always so eloquent?" "Let me explain. Today I found out about Richie's latest prank with your wife. I paid the desk clerk who called me $500 for the proof. I've had enough. He promised several times to stop being promiscuous, but I don't think that's possible. As for meeting you, it's just a coincidence. I wanted to get out of the house and clear my head. My mother has 2 of my children. When I saw you and remembered you from the Christmas party, the expression on your face seemed to match what I was feeling, so I came over. If you prefer to be alone." "No, no. Please join me. I'm just so surprised. I think we probably have a lot in common. What are you drinking? What do you have?" "Cocktail from Long Island." "Damn it, I love him. I lost my virginity because of him. Damn it. Order me one double." We spent several hours talking and getting drunk. She was easy to talk to, and she had a great, lewd sense of humor. I was very attracted to it. Finally, she said, "Well, it's time for us to take revenge or go to bed ourselves. What do you prefer? As much as I'd like to make love to you, I don't think I can do it well enough to be worthy of a special woman like you. This is the most pleasant disappointment I have ever experienced. Trust me, it shouldn't have been an insult, and I really hate to miss this chance. If we ever make love, I'd like to be in a better state. Even then, I'd be worried if I was good enough for you. Damn it, I haven't even thrown out the trash yet, and I feel like I'm falling in love again. I should have known better than to drink double. What if we have breakfast together tomorrow? I can call you, or if you get up." "I have a suggestion," Joan said. "What if we sleep together so we know when the other one wakes up?" "Do you mean sleeping together or sleeping together?" "Just sleep. I can be persuaded to exchange a little affection. I really don't want to sleep alone tonight." So am I. Is it your room or mine? I have a suite. I use his credit card. He owes me. I brought some of my stuff to her room. After finishing our night duties in the bathroom, we went to bed. Despite the fact that we were both naked, hugging and kissing lightly, we fell asleep in just a few minutes. She woke up first and poked me in the ribs. Wake up, or I'll have to react to your morning boner. I just kept feeling that it was too early to make a decision about adultery, even though our spouses had already done so. At breakfast in the Waffle House next door, we got serious. We talked about our marriages. We both wanted to get rid of our spouses, and we both wanted revenge. The problem seemed to be how we could divorce them without losing as much or more than they did. I really don't want to go back to this house. I'd be happy to just go somewhere with the kids and forget about him. How can you afford it? Isn't he coming for the kids or for you? My family has money. When I called them last night, they said they would put $100,000 into my personal account to give me and the children the opportunity to start divorce proceedings elsewhere. To be honest, I'd rather just walk away and let him worry about the divorce. Aren't your kids at school? Won't they miss their father? No, I teach them at home, and he agreed to have children only because it was a condition of marrying me. After the second one, my tubes were bandaged. I doubt they will miss him very much. I'm sure he won't do that. He doesn't spend much time with them and always whines if he's asked to sit with them while I run off somewhere. I've known for quite some time. He probably only married me for my money. I don't care. I have two wonderful girls from our marriage. My parents were in no hurry to give my brother and me money, but they helped us with the deposit for our house and things like that. They don't particularly like Richie. I didn't think about just leaving. Like you, I don't particularly want to go back to my house. Although both of our names are on the mortgage. Helen and Kelsey have never been particularly close. Kelsey was an oops kid. I think Helen didn't want to postpone her career for a few years. Kelsey has always been a daddy's daughter, and I think Helen loves her, but I don't think she will take extraordinary actions to get her back. She knows that I will take good care of her. You know, the more I think about it, the more I like the idea of just walking away. Joan asked me, if it seems to us that the best option for both of us is to just leave our spouses, rather than mess with the divorce, the question is, do we do it together? She looked into my eyes, and maybe I was wishful thinking, but I thought I saw love in her eyes. We've been together for 24 hours. Not exactly love at first sight, but damn close. It doesn't make sense, but yes, I would go with you if I could take my daughter with me. I can't believe I'm saying this. I've never done anything so impulsive and so important at the same time. I have one question. Where are we going? Will we tell anyone where we're going? These are the first two questions, but we have to ask each other all the questions we can think of. Here's my preliminary plan. I have an Aunt Barbara who has a big cabin on Lake Champlain that she can't live in anymore because of her problems. If it were available, it would be perfect. An isolated house, with lots of rooms for the children and for us. The setting is quite worthy of a photograph from National Geographic magazine. It turned out that the hut was vacant. I spent the next few days at the hotel. I ignored the messages from Helen after I realized that she had guessed that I was aware of her return to dates with Richie on Wednesdays. I left one message, I need to leave for a while. I want to work and quit. My boss was upset, but he also understood the reason. He asked if Richie's dismissal would cause any problems in my plans for Helen. My case was not the first. I said, shoot. I asked him to wait until I was ready to leave. I would have liked to have a picture of Richie's face when he was told, but it was too much. I went into our bank and withdrew almost all the money from our joint assets. I spent most of the money on paying off the rest of the mortgage. Despite her betrayal, I couldn't bring myself to take all our money and possessions. We both contributed to household expenses. Having a house, Helen will get about the same financial results as with a 50-50 divorce. If she needs money, she can always sell the house. I gave up my interest in the house to make it easier for her. Then I canceled the automatic payment of utilities and insurance. Health insurance will stop when I leave my job. I changed my life insurance beneficiary to Kelsey. At night, Joan and I talked about what we needed to do to hide effectively, how to least harm our children, and what kind of future we could have together. We continued to avoid making love. There were enough emotions as it was. We didn't need our decision to leave our spouses to be based on making love between us. I don't know which of us was more disappointed. By the third day, we came to the conclusion that our escape plan was feasible. The next day, while Helen was at work, I went home and got what I thought Kelsey and I needed most. I thought about leaving a note. All I could think of was, I hope making love to him was worth it. My last stop that day was Kelsey's school. I told the school that Kelsey had an appointment with a doctor and apologized for not telling them sooner. I told Kelsey we were going on vacation. Kelsey asked if Mom would go. I said not on this trip. I was surprised by her calm reaction. Joan picked up the children from their mother's house when they returned from school. By 5 o'clock, we were on our way. Aunt Barb invited us to live in a lake house. She had just finished the renovation and felt remorse selling it. Fortunately for us, we took 2 cars. Kelsey rode with me at first, but after a few stops where the 3 girls met, they took turns all riding with me or all riding with Joan. By the time we got to the log cabin, Joan and I had lost the master bedroom. The girls did not agree to share the newly formed trio. Fortunately, one of the guest bedrooms was next to the second bathroom and was quite suitable for Joan and me. One of Joan's daughters asked why Joan and I shared a bedroom when there was no one in one of the bedrooms. Joan told her that the bedroom we were in was an adult bedroom. Her eldest daughter replied that adults usually have their own room. Kelsey agreed. They both saw that their parents hadn't spent many nights together in the last few months. As soon as the excitement of the day passed, the children went to bed. All 3 of them in the same bed. It was a good thing she was a king size. Joan and I had a glass of wine. Barbara has prepared a small wine cupboard for our housewarming. A sly smile appeared on Joan's face. So, now that we've separated from our spouses, are you ready to prove how good you are in bed? Oh shit. She remembered what I said that night at the Holiday Inn Express. I'm afraid I've overestimated your expectations of my bedroom skills. My ex-wife seemed disappointed in this regard. If she fell in love with my worthless ex-husband, I don't attach importance to her judgments in the bed arena or anywhere else. In addition, I plan to influence the quality of your performance as much as possible. I hope you don't mind the woman on top. My erection quickly replied in the affirmative to her statement. We went to the adult's bedroom and made love. I was pleasantly surprised at how different it was to love Joan than it was with Helen. A good difference. She smelled different. And I felt different. Everything tasted different. I really thought she might have a seizure until she said, "Can you do it again?" Surprisingly, I was able to. For times. I got up 4 times that night. A new record for me. That's it, Joan remarked before we finally fell asleep. I think this is the answer to the question of bed compatibility. We snuggled up to each other. The next morning, we happily went shopping to stock up on food for us and for the children. I enjoyed grilling for as long as the weather allowed. We didn't need the money, as Joan still received most of her money from her parents, plus what little I had left after paying off the mortgage. No one but Aunt Barb knew where we were. Once she heard our stories, she had no problem wanting to keep our secret, even from Joan's parents. As time passed, Joan became a home teacher for all 3 children. I got a job as a handyman. I admit, I learned on the go. The girls' questions about my wife and her husband, or whether they wanted to see them, became less frequent every month. Soon all the girls started calling us Mom and Dad. Living outdoors allowed them to release their inner souls. Our next-door neighbor, Greta, raised her family in this environment and was happy to give us advice. We needed it. She started out as a friend, but gradually became a grandmother to our children. We asked her not to ask the children about their parents, as we both had an unpleasant divorce. She agreed. From time to time, Joan and I talked about whether it was worth making contact with our former lives. We were afraid that any contact could lead someone to us. Apart from Helen and Richie, we were worried that the police might accuse us of kidnapping and/or fraud in order to avoid a legal divorce and distribution of funds. We decided to use the internet as a safer way to communicate. Greta has agreed to install the internet at home if we teach her how to use it. She wanted to write to her grandchildren. With our children, she missed her own even more than before. We debated whether to tell Greta our true story. We haven't done this before. Things were going so well that we were afraid to rock the boat. It took Greta a month to install satellite TV with Wi-Fi. We showed her how to use email and Skype. Seeing her grandchildren alive was something special for her. One day, when she was taking the girls to the lake, we went online for information. We found an ad for the sale of my old house. Helen must have needed the money. A year after we left, Helen and Richie sent out divorce announcements based on the fact that they had been abandoned. Aunt Barbara told Joan that her parents had sent the annual Christmas report for the year. Joan's mother attached a personal note to Barb's letter, as she knew that her daughter and Barb were close. Barb suspected that Joan's mother had guessed where Joan was. The message was a warning to Barbara. Helen didn't give up on looking for Cal. She hired a private investigator who visited Joan's parents. The detective knew about Aunt Barbara. She told her to expect someone to be sniffing around soon. She didn't call because she was afraid that her calls might be tapped. Joan's mother watched a lot of spy movies. Barbara advised Cal and Joan to hurry up. We didn't have enough money to make a big move unless we were sure we'd get more money soon after moving in. Instead of asking Joan's parents for help, I decided to take the opportunity and wrote to my old boss to find out where to look for a job. He replied that a private detective had contacted him. My boss told him that he was angry that I hadn't warned him and he didn't care where I was. Then he asked me if I liked Flagstaff, Arizona. I said I didn't know because I'd never been there. He said there was a vacancy for a branch manager. He agreed to arrange an interview for me and assured me that I would get the job. I asked how he could guarantee that. He said that his brother was hiring, who had already tried to hire 2 employees in my old office. We headed for Flagstaff. On the way, I was afraid that by becoming an employee, I would leave a trail that a good private investigator could find. I had an idea just before we entered Arizona. We rented a hotel room with a double bed and let the girls swim in the pool. Joan did her best to calm my nerves. As promised by my former boss, his brother basically wanted to know how soon I could start. I told him that I needed to create an LLC and name my corporation something other than my name. I told him that instead of an employee, he would use the services of my corporation. Service contracts were usually cheaper than employees, so he agreed. We found a house in the desert. It was completely different on the street, but the children quickly adapted. I think they were happy to escape the cold winter weather possible where we came from. It took several months for the children to get used to it, and several more before Joan and I felt safe again. That fateful night, Joan and I were turning off the lights, getting ready to go to bed, when there was a knock on the door. At this hour, when there were no neighbors nearby, I had my suspicions. I took my rifle and loaded it. I peeked cautiously through the peephole and saw that it was Helen. Tons of mixed emotions raced through my brain. My heart was pounding. My stomach felt sick. I shouted to Joan that we had guests. I invited Helen in just as Joan entered the room. "I suppose it's Helen?" I nodded. Helen jumped up immediately. "I suppose the children are already asleep. I waited until you started turning off the lights. I don't want to bother them." "Yes, they slept for about half an hour." "Good. Damn it. You're just a hard-to-get bastard." She chuckled. "Let me reassure you both from the beginning. I'm not here to cause problems. After you left and Richie lost his job, he moved in with me. It didn't take me long to realize that I had traded the Mercedes for the Yugo. Don't get me wrong. I was attracted to him because of making love, and he was good in bed. But a couple who lives together needs more than just a bed. I gave him time to find a job so he could pay his share of the expenses. He didn't believe me at first, but he was convinced when a deputy sheriff showed up and told him to get out or be arrested. I heard he found a job in another city. As for my life, I came to my senses with the help of a psychotherapist. Since then, I've been able to support myself quite well emotionally and financially. Private detectives don't come cheap. A year later, I filed for divorce because by that time I already knew that I had lost you and Kelsey. As much as I wanted to behave differently, I knew I had to move on. By applying for a waiver, I could set the terms of the divorce process. I took what little was left of your things. To be honest, I feel like I'm moving on. In fact, I have a man I'm dating and I have high hopes for. At least I'm sure I won't make the mistake I made with you. If you left Helen's ex, why are you here? Not very polite for small talk, is it? Okay, the reason I'm here is because of the closure. I got really depressed when I had time to be alone to figure out what I had done, what I've lost. I couldn't live in balance with myself without telling you how sorry I am and that I don't blame you a bit for what you did. I wanted to make sure you didn't think it was your fault. I pray that you don't hate me. I would like to ask you to forgive me, but I understand that I am asking too much. Anyway, I apologize again. I hope you, Joan and Kelsey are happy. Well, that's it. Now I have a completion. What about Kelsey? Were you planning on seeing her? Are you going to get custody? I won't lie. At first, I hoped to get at least joint custody. Over time, I realized that if she got used to her new family, then it would be more harm than good for her to see me, and even more so to live with me. No matter how good she is, I don't think I can handle her on my own without your help. Seeing each other now, we are most likely experiencing emotions that will eat us both up for a long time. I want to know how she's doing. Has she ever asked about me or been interested in me? How is she doing at school? None of the girls asked about you or Richie, but of course we didn't forbid them. Joan replied, we said that you and Richie don't want to be with us anymore, but you want our new family to be happy. So far, they have not said that they want to return. This does not mean that they periodically do not ask how you're doing. I feel pretty comfortable telling you that they've all adjusted well. Kelsey and my girls have become an inseparable trio of cute monsters. I teach her at home with my girls. She tests 2 grades higher than she would have if she had attended a public school in most subjects. Helen, I can really say that I love Kelsey as much as I love my 2 own children. There were tears in Helen's eyes. Thanks. Have you already got married? I replied, no, we weren't sure we were divorced. That's what I thought. Well, I have a wedding gift for you. This is a copy of each of your divorce certificates, suitable for registration. Her attempt at a joke seemed to come down to not crying. Richie and I shared a divorce lawyer. Now you can become a legitimate family if you want. You will notice that both Richie and I have transferred full custody of our children to you too. You should be able to apply to adopt each other's children. After a pause to watch Joan and I cry at the good news, Helen said, I have to go, and headed for the door. I reached out and took her hand. Through copious tears, Helen whispered, just let me go. I promise never to bother you again. If you ever need to tell me anything about Kelsey, you have my cell phone number. I let her go, and she left. Joan went and brought each a glass of wine. We needed to calm our nerves somehow. We sat in silence for a while. I looked at Joan, and after a few minutes I saw her smile. So, who is proposing to whom? I was smiling now. After due consideration and deep thought, I have decided that the first one to reach the climax tonight will be the one to propose. We both ran into the bedroom. Helen drove far enough away that she couldn't be seen. She stopped and let out the sobs she was holding inside. Helen considered her position. Her funds were almost gone when a private investigator claimed success. The small funds she had with her were less than $200. Her plan to meet with Cal had 2 options. First, Helen might find that Cal couldn't handle Kelsey without her. Joan would either not be with him, or their relationship had soured. Cal would forgive her. She would be able to return to Cal and Kelsey's life and never leave again. Even if they don't get married, it doesn't matter. Her car was loaded with everything she still had, waiting for this option to come true. The second option is if she finds Cal and Kelsey in good health. Maybe he and Joan will get married and even have a child of their own. In that case, she would say that she had only come to end this matter and would give them the divorce decrees as a parting gift. The second option was the most difficult, but she had to consider it. Her closure plan required her to leave her new family and get to the biggest city nearby, where she could start her life anew without fear of running into them. In the zippered bag in the glove compartment was Cal's wedding ring, her wedding rings, and other jewelry she no longer needed. By pawning them, she will receive money for a new life. Helen stopped crying and pulled back onto the road. Phoenix, I'm coming. Hey, maybe it's a sign from God. Maybe I can rise from the ashes too.